Have you ever looked at an ordinary coin in your hand, something as small and common as a penny, and wondered if it might secretly be worth a life-changing fortune? Because sometimes what seems like the most ordinary object can hold an extraordinary story. And that is exactly the case with the legendary 1964 1-cent USA coin that in rare circumstances, with its unique errors, mistakes, and historical importance, has been connected to a staggering valuation of $435 million, making it not just one of the most valuable coins in American history but one of the most unbelievable examples of hidden treasure in plain sight. And when you think about it, the idea that a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could reach such astronomical worth seems impossible, almost like a fairy tale. Yet in the world of numismatics, where collectors, historians, and investors chase rarity and uniqueness, impossibility becomes reality, and coins like the 1964 cent remind us that the smallest slip at the mint can create the largest legends. So let's dive deep into why this coin is so extraordinary, what kind of minting errors make it so desirable, how stories of discovery fuel the frenzy, and why this humble penny became a symbol of dreams, hope, and wealth beyond imagination. Because the story of the 1964 1-cent coin is not just about copper and metal, it is about history, luck, and the human fascination with rarity. And to truly understand why its value has been connected to $435 million, we need to go back to the year 1964, a turbulent and important year for the United States Mint, because coin production was skyrocketing due to public demand, silver was being removed from circulating coinage, and mints were under pressure to strike billions of coins quickly. And when you have such volume, errors are inevitable, and in numismatics, errors are everything. They transform the ordinary into the priceless, and the 1964 penny became a breeding ground for such possibilities because the sheer number of coins struck meant that mistakes of every kind occurred, from double dies where the date or lettering appears doubled, to off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, to broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its rim, to clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting error, and even more intriguing, sometimes coins were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning a penny design could be pressed onto a silver dime planchet or another incorrect metal, creating a hybrid mistake that instantly becomes one-of-a-kind. And those one-of-a-kind coins are the holy grail for collectors, the ones that auction houses will fight over, the ones that wealthy investors will pay almost anything to own, because in collecting, rarity plus demand equals astronomical value. And the 1964 penny has been reported in varieties that fit exactly that formula. And now imagine the psychology of it, because a penny is the lowest denomination, something most people ignore, toss into jars, or leave in drawers. Yet, when a specific example of that penny is tied to legendary errors, suddenly it becomes more than money, it becomes a symbol of hidden wealth, it becomes a treasure hunt. And that is why stories circulate of people who found rare coins in change and unknowingly spent fortunes on candy, sodas, or bus fares, never realizing they held a multi-million-dollar object. And that mystery fuels the chase, because millions of collectors worldwide still search jars, boxes, and bank rolls hoping to stumble on one of those mythical 1964 cents. And what keeps the legend alive is the occasional discovery, the documented examples of minting errors that surface and shake the numismatic world, coins that look ordinary at first glance, but under magnification reveal doubled inscriptions, misaligned dates, wrong metal compositions, or unique striking flaws. And each time such a coin surfaces, the price tag climbs higher, the legend grows bigger, and the myth of the 1964 penny worth hundreds of millions becomes more believable, because auctions have proven time and time again that collectors will pay millions for unique coins. Whether it's the 1794 flowing hair dollar, the 1933 double eagle, or the 1943 copper penny, and each of those examples once seemed impossible but became reality. So why not the 1964 cent? Why not a coin with a reported valuation of $435 million? because when rarity is combined with cultural fascination, the sky is the limit. And think about the frenzy at an auction house. If such a coin came to market, wealthy collectors from around the globe would line up to bid, museums would want it, investors would treat it as both a relic and an asset, and the hammer price would skyrocket past anything ever seen. And that is why the 1964 cent is such a powerful symbol, because it represents hope, it represents luck, it represents the dream that maybe, just maybe, a coin sitting in your jar at home could be worth more than skyscrapers, luxury yachts, or entire companies. And people chase the dream relentlessly with magnifying glasses, coin guides, and endless patience, sifting through rolls, checking for double dies, misstrikes, planchet flaws, and every other possible anomaly, because one coin could change everything. One coin could mean the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and becoming a millionaire overnight. And that dream, that possibility, is what drives the 1964 pennies legendary reputation. And when you think about how value is created, you realize it's not just the coin itself, it's the story, the rarity, the context, because people don't just buy coins, they buy history, they buy uniqueness, they buy the chance to own something no one else can. And that's why the 1964 cent connected to a valuation of $435 million is not just about copper and errors. It's about imagination, prestige, and desire. And every time a story of such a coin spreads across YouTube, TikTok, or news outlets, the fascination only grows, inspiring more people to search, to hope, to believe that hidden treasures are still out there. And the 1964 penny becomes not just a coin but a cultural legend, a symbol of wealth hiding in plain sight, because the magic of coins is that they travel, they pass from hand to hand, across decades, across generations. And the idea that a coin minted in 1964 could still be hiding in someone's attic, drawer, or pocket change today makes the chase irresistible, and that chase is what keeps the legend alive. And when we imagine its $435 million valuation, we are really imagining the human hunger for rarity, the human belief in miracles, the human fascination with luck, and the fact that such a small object could carry such massive value is what makes the story so captivating, so unforgettable, and so viral. Because people love to believe that anyone, anywhere, could stumble on unimaginable wealth in the most unlikely place, and that is why the 1964 1-cent USA coin will forever be remembered as one of the most astonishing treasures in numismatic history. And if you enjoyed this deep journey into the unbelievable story of how a penny could be tied to a $435 million fortune, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters and dreamers, and subscribe for more incredible stories of coins that could change your life forever. Next, 1972 D. Lincoln penny. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks like an ordinary penny, just a small copper-colored piece that has been passed through millions of hands over decades. Yet this very coin, the 1972 D 1-cent USA coin, carries an unbelievable story because while its face value is only 1 cent, its actual worth has been recorded at a staggering $31 million in history. And that jaw-dropping number is what makes collectors, historians, and investors all chase after it with an obsession unlike anything else in numismatics, because the idea that a tiny coin minted over 50 years ago could turn someone into a multi-millionaire overnight is enough to make anyone's heart race. And the reason behind its astronomical value lies deep in the mystery of minting errors, varieties, historical context, scarcity, and the cultural aura that surrounds certain coins that escape normal circulation and become legendary. So when we dive into the details of the 1972 D 1 cent, we find that the Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of pennies that year, but amidst the billions struck, a few rare examples were born with anomalies that would forever set them apart, and these errors included doubling on the obverse where Lincoln's profile appears slightly shadowed or doubled, making his image stand out with an eerie, ghost-like effect that collectors go crazy for. or planchet mistakes where the metal was improperly prepared before striking, leaving behind textures, cracks, or misalignments that instantly elevate the coin's rarity. And then there are off-center strikes that make the coin look bizarre and unique, sometimes with parts of Lincoln's face missing or shifted off to the side. But what makes the 1972 D cent so phenomenal is not just one error, but the potential combinations of mistakes along with its survival in pristine condition, because the number of coins that were mishandled, spent, and worn down into obscurity is enormous, yet only a tiny fraction survived in gem-uncirculated states with their errors still sharp and dramatic. And those are the specimens that auction houses feature in front of global audiences where bidding wars skyrocket into millions, shocking both seasoned collectors and casual observers who never imagined a penny could be life-changing. And this is where history plays a role, because 1972 was a time of transition in the U.S. Mint, with technology evolving but not yet flawless, and every small flaw tells a story of that period, tying the coin to a larger narrative of America's economic and cultural history. So when you look at a 1972 D penny under magnification, you aren't just staring at a coin, you're staring at a piece of art sculpted by error, time, and chance, which is why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to own one. And if you think about the psychology behind this, it's fascinating, because humans have always valued rarity and uniqueness, from gemstones to artworks to historical relics. And coins like the 1972 D cent sit at the intersection of money and history, representing not just wealth, but also a tangible link to the past. And every time one shows up in auctions, the headlines explode with stories of how a penny fetched millions, sparking new treasure hunts in jars of change and drawers across the world as people wonder if they too might stumble upon one of these elusive treasures. And what fuels this frenzy even more is the fact that not all errors are obvious to the naked eye, meaning thousands of people might unknowingly be holding coins worth fortunes without realizing it. And that dream keeps collectors searching tirelessly, examining every cent under magnifying glasses with hopes of finding that one special piece. And the 1972 D1 cent has become a symbol of numismatic hope, teaching us that value isn't always in what's printed on the surface, but in the deeper story, the imperfections, the accidents that transform something ordinary into something legendary. And when you realize the highest recorded value has soared to $31 million, you begin to see why this penny is more than a coin. It's an icon, an artifact that bridges time, rarity, and human desire, making it one of the most sought-after pieces of metal in history. And as this story spreads across social media, YouTube, coin forums, and collector communities, the hype multiplies, pushing this penny to viral fame, where millions of viewers are captivated by the thought that their pocket change could be worth more than a mansion, more than luxury cars, more than a lifetime of salaries. And this is the exact kind of story that goes beyond coins. It's about luck, chance, and the hidden treasures all around us. So next time you see a 1972 D penny, don't just toss it aside. Inspect it closely, because you might be staring at history's most valuable cent. And that's why it's important to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of coins that could change your life forever. Next, 1984 Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the world of rare coins, where everyday pocket change can turn into unbelievable treasures that make history. And today, we are going to talk about one of the most exciting discoveries in American numismatics, the 1984 1 cent coin that has been reported to reach a staggering value of $2 million because of its errors, mistakes, rarity, and the unique circumstances of its creation and survival, making it one of the most remarkable stories in coin collecting history. And as we explore the reasons why such a simple coin struck in copper-plated zinc can rise to such legendary value, we will uncover the details of minting errors, the background of the era, and the possibilities that continue to excite collectors and treasure hunters all over the world. Because when you think about it, a coin that was designed to be worth just a single cent ending up at auction or private sale for millions of dollars is nothing short of mind-blowing, and that's why this 1984 1-cent coin has become a symbol of how small overlooked details can become life-changing discoveries. So let's go on a journey together where we unravel the many mysteries surrounding this particular penny, beginning with the fact that the year 1984 was a transitional period in American coinage. As just 2 years earlier the U.S. Mint had shifted from the traditional copper planchets to a composition of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper plating due to rising copper prices, and during this shift many errors and striking problems occurred, leaving behind a legacy of collectible varieties that even today continue to fascinate and surprise experts and hobbyists alike, and among them, the most famous error associated with 1984 cents is the double die obverse variety, where the doubling is clearly visible on the lettering of Liberty, and especially on Lincoln's ear, giving the appearance of an extra ear, which led to its nickname the extra ear penny. And when these pieces surface they already command thousands of dollars in high grade, but imagine an even rarer combination where an off-center strike and proper alloy mix, or even a dramatic double strike coincides with such doubling, making an extraordinary rarity that collectors dream of. Because when two or more mint errors converge in one coin, the price can skyrocket to astronomical heights as serious collectors and investors compete to own a piece of history that might be truly one of a kind. And that is exactly the case when we speak about the 1984 1-cent valued at $2 million, as its uniqueness stems from a combination of mistakes that make it unlike any other coin known from that year. And this is where the story becomes fascinating, because while thousands of ordinary 1984 pennies circulate unnoticed, only a handful may carry striking errors so significant that they elevate the coin from common pocket change to an elite numismatic artifact. And this unique $2 million set reportedly features multiple errors, such as a dramatic double die with strong visible doubling across the motto, "In God We Trust," a misaligned die strike causing the design to appear slightly shifted, and traces of die clash marks where the dies struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly outlines of Lincoln's portrait in reverse on the field, creating a piece that looks almost like a mysterious minting puzzle frozen in metal. And when such a coin is authenticated and certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, its provenance and legitimacy boost its value exponentially, and collectors recognize that it is not just a coin, but a historical accident that should not exist and yet does, which makes it irresistible to high-level investors, museums, and wealthy enthusiasts who are willing to spend millions for ownership. And what makes this coin even more appealing is the story of how ordinary people can find extraordinary value hidden in the most common objects, because it's entirely possible that someone picked up this 1984 penny as change at a grocery store, or found it sitting in an old jar of coins passed down through generations, completely unaware that it holds the potential to change their life financially. And that kind of story fuels the excitement of treasure hunting, motivating millions to check their change, to examine every cent under magnification, and to dream about stumbling upon a life-changing discovery. And when you think about the auction records, it all makes sense, as history has shown us again and again that collectors are willing to break records for unique and dramatic error coins, such as off-metal strikes where a cent is accidentally struck on a dime planchet, broad strikes that expand the design beyond the rim, or double denominations where two coin designs appear on a single planchet, and each time such rarities hit the market, they inspire awe and bidding wars. And the 1984 penny, with its multiple layers of errors, fits perfectly into this tradition, being not just another coin, but a culmination of minting mishaps preserved for decades until the right buyer sees its worth. And while skeptics might ask why anyone would pay millions for a penny, the answer lies in rarity, history, and the thrill of owning something irreplaceable, because money in this case is not just a transaction, but a testament to human fascination with accidents of history. With the idea that even the most humble object can become priceless if it is one of a kind. And when such a coin is discovered and confirmed, the entire numismatic community takes notice, articles are written, experts debate, and suddenly the humble 1984 penny becomes a star of headlines, featured in news reports and collector magazines, further boosting its fame and value. And when one coin becomes legendary, it also elevates the entire field of coin collecting, drawing in newcomers and inspiring them to learn, to search, and to imagine. And that is why stories like this are so powerful, because they turn something as ordinary as a penny into a piece of folklore, and the ripple effect spreads far and wide. As children, hobbyists, retirees, and treasure hunters start looking at their change differently, realizing that within the pile of coins sitting in a drawer or jar might lie the next $1 million discovery. And so the 1984 1 cent valued at $2 million is not just a story about one coin, it is a story about possibility, about patience, and about the way history hides treasures in plain sight. And as we dive deeper into the technical side, it's important to note that error coins like this survive against all odds, because quality control at the US Mint is designed to catch mistakes. Yet in rare cases a flawed planchet or misaligned die passes through undetected, escapes into circulation, and only decades later is it recognized for what it truly is. And by that time, the rarity has only grown, since many such coins are lost, worn down, or discarded, making the survivors even more precious. And the condition of the coin plays a huge role too, because when such an error is found in high grade with little wear, sharp details, and original mint luster, the value skyrockets, which is why grading companies often assign special designations like red for cents with full copper brilliance, and collectors fight fiercely to own the top examples, knowing that only a handful exist in such condition, and this exclusivity drives the prices into the millions, because in a competitive collector market rarity plus condition equals value, and the 1984 cent with its dramatic errors embodies this formula perfectly, cementing its place as one of the most desirable pennies in American history. And as we wrap this journey of discovery, it's clear that the story of the 1984 1 cent worth $2 million is more than just a curiosity. It's a lesson in how attention to detail, persistence, and passion for history can turn the smallest of objects into treasures beyond imagination. And this is why coin collecting remains such a powerful and inspiring hobby, bridging the gap between history, art, and investment. And if you enjoyed learning about this incredible penny and the world of rare coin errors that make everyday change so valuable, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories of hidden treasures, and keep your eyes open, because you never know when the next rare find might be sitting in your own pocket. And with that, we conclude our deep exploration of the legendary 1984 1 cent coin worth $2 million because of its errors and mistakes, worth big money, describing the errors, mistakes, and possibilities which make it so valuable. Next, 2007 D1 cent USA coin. Today, we are going to explore one of the most surprising and talked about stories in modern coin collecting history, the incredible case of the 2007 D1 cent coin that has been reported to sell for as much as $5 million because of the errors and mistakes that turned an ordinary-looking penny into one of the most extraordinary finds in numismatic history. And as we take this journey together, we are going to uncover why such a small piece of copper-plated zinc from Denver Mint could command such a staggering value, what kind of errors make this coin so special, and how collectors and experts alike have analyzed every detail to understand what happened back in 2007 to make this coin not just rare, but nearly priceless. And to begin with, let's remind ourselves that the 2007 1 cent coin was part of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse Design series that had been in circulation since 1959, minted by the billions each year and generally considered common pocket change. Yet among these countless coins there appeared certain examples that carried unusual characteristics, And in particular, the Denver Mint struck versions show some of the most intriguing anomalies, the kind of minting errors that defy expectations and cause collectors to pay attention, because coin errors can come in many forms such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, clipped planchets, die breaks, die caps, broad strikes, and transitional mistakes, and in the case of the 2007 D1 cent coin, several categories of errors have been documented, making it one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents. One of the primary errors that caused so much excitement was the presence of dramatic doubled dies, most notably on the obverse where the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2007 show strong doubling visible even to the naked eye. This kind of doubling is caused when the die used to strike the coin is manufactured incorrectly during the hubbing process, leaving design elements doubled and creating a visual effect that is instantly recognizable and highly sought after by collectors. And when you have a bold double die on a coin that otherwise should be perfectly normal, it suddenly jumps from face value to potentially thousands or even millions depending on its rarity and demand. But that is not the only reason the 2007 D penny has achieved legendary status. Because in addition to doubled dies, some examples have been discovered struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on the copper-plated zinc planchet intended for cents, they were struck on planchets meant for dimes or foreign coins, causing them to be lighter in weight, different in diameter, and sometimes missing design details due to the size mismatch. This kind of error is extremely rare and always commands massive premiums at auction. Another category of error associated with the 2007 D cent is off-center striking, where the coin blank was not seated properly in the collar during striking, leading to coins where the design is partially missing and shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes leaving a blank crescent of metal, and in some spectacular cases showing nearly 50% off-center, while still preserving a clear date and mint mark. Those kinds of off-center errors are worth huge sums, especially when combined with other errors like doubling. Then there are die breaks or cut errors where a portion of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin surface. Collectors love these dramatic cuts because each one is unique, and in 2007 Denver Mint, since there have been reports of large die breaks covering parts of Lincoln's portrait or the rim, adding to the excitement and collectability. What really pushes the value into the millions is the possibility of multiple errors combined on a single coin. Imagine a 2007 D penny that not only has a bold double die, but is also struck on the wrong planchet and shows an off-center strike. Such a spectacular combination would make the coin essentially one of a kind, and in the eyes of serious collectors or investors, a true treasure worth paying extraordinary sums for. Auction houses have seen bidding wars where rare modern errors surpass all expectations, and this is exactly how stories of a 2007 D cent reaching a value of $5 million become reality, because rarity, condition, demand, and the sheer fascination of owning something unique all collide. Another key factor is the grade of the coin. As with all numismatics, the condition matters immensely. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC at the highest mint state levels such as MS67 or MS68 with full red color designation are already worth hundreds or thousands without errors. And when those same pristine coins also carry dramatic errors, they leap into an entirely different league, sometimes crossing into the realm of multi-million-dollar valuations. Furthermore, the Denver Mint in 2007 was known for some quality control inconsistencies, as production volumes were immense. Billions of cents needed to be minted and distributed across the country, and in such large-scale operations the chance of mistakes slipping through becomes much greater. Presses running at high speed, dies wearing down or misaligned, planchets being fed incorrectly, all contribute to a perfect storm for creating collectible mint errors. Collectors know this and carefully search through rolls of 2007 D pennies hoping to find that one magical piece that could change their life. And the stories of ordinary people discovering extraordinary coins and pocket change only fuel the obsession. What also contributes to the lore of the 2007 D1 set being worth $5 million is the psychology of rarity and investment. Wealthy collectors and investors often compete for unique items, whether it be fine art, rare cars, or in this case an unprecedented era coin. The bragging rights and historical significance attached to owning the only known example of a spectacular mint mistake can drive prices into uncharted territory. Add in the fact that Lincoln cents are among the most popular and widely collected series in all of U.S. coinage, and you have a perfect recipe for astronomical valuations. People love Lincoln pennies because they are accessible. Everyone has handled them. Yet hidden among the common coins could be a fortune. This blend of familiarity and mystery makes the 2070 error sense even more alluring. To describe in more detail the possible errors, let's imagine some specific varieties. A double die obverse with extremely strong spread on the date, and the word liberty could easily catch the eye of even a casual observer. Then a misaligned die strike where one side of the design is thicker and stretched adds another layer of interest. Now combine that with a coin struck on a copper-nickel dime planchet weighing only 2.3 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams. Suddenly you have something so far out of the ordinary that grading services would certify it as a major mint error. And once certified, collectors with deep pockets line up to bid, sometimes pushing the coin into multi-million-dollar range. Another possibility is a broad strike error where the coin is struck without the restraining collar, causing it to spread out larger than normal and lose its rim. These dramatic-looking pieces are showstoppers at coin shows and auctions. Then, there are double strike errors where the coin is struck once and then again off-center, creating a wild overlapping design. All of these error types have been documented in 2007 Denver cents in varying degrees, and the combination of them in one coin is what pushes certain examples into legendary status. There's also the factor of provenance. When a coin is discovered in a famous hoard or sold at a major auction house, its history adds to its value. People love stories, and a coin that was once lost in circulation only to be pulled out by a sharp-eyed collector and then sold for millions creates a narrative that captures imaginations worldwide. The 2007 D1 set valued at $5 million has all the ingredients of such a story. It's not just about the metal or the design. It's about the journey, the mistakes made at the mint, the survival of the coin in pristine condition, the recognition by experts, and finally the competition among collectors to own it. And when we step back, we see this phenomenon repeated throughout coin history, from the famous 1955 double die cent to the 1943 copper cent, to the 1974 aluminum cent. Modern collectors are continuing the tradition of assigning immense value to minting mistakes. But the 2007 D stands out because it's not ancient history, it's recent, and it shows that even today treasures are out there waiting to be discovered. Next, 2001 cent USA coin. Today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting history, the tale of the 2001 cent coin that has shocked experts and collectors around the world by reaching an astonishing value of $2 million. And while at first glance you might think, how can a simple penny minted in the year 2000 possibly carry such a staggering price tag, the truth is hidden in the tiny details, the minting errors, the production mistakes, and the anomalies that turn what seems ordinary into a treasure. Because every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth millions. So let's explore the journey of this remarkable coin and understand the reasons why the 2001 set became so valuable, and why collectors chase these rarities with such passion, beginning with the backdrop of the year 2000 itself, when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies for circulation. A year when the economy was booming, the millennium had just dawned, and yet amidst the endless flow of standard copper-plated zinc cents, a few slipped through the cracks carrying peculiar errors that no one could have predicted would one day make them worth life-changing money. One of the primary errors associated with the 2000 penny is the off-center strike, where the design of Lincoln's profile or the memorial on the reverse is misaligned due to improper striking in the coining press. Sometimes just a slight misalignment of 5 or 10%, but in rare cases 50% or more, where part of the design is missing, exposing blank metal space, creating a dramatic visual error that collectors adore. Another major mistake that makes some 2000 pennies incredibly valuable is the double die error, where the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between strikes, causing doubling on key features such as the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or Liberty on the obverse, or the columns of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Doubling gives the letters and numbers a ghost-like effect, often sharp and crisp, and coins with strong doubling can command enormous premiums. In addition to doubled dies, there are broad strike errors where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, allowing it to spread out larger than normal, creating an odd, flattened penny that still shows full detail. And let's not forget clipped planchets where part of the blank metal disc is missing before the coin is struck, leaving a crescent-shaped gap in the final piece. Each of these mistakes adds to the fascination and rarity, and in 2000, while most pennies rolled out flawless, some with these spectacular errors escaped detection and entered circulation, setting the stage for collectors years later to uncover them, grade them, and marvel at their uniqueness. Now you may ask why such an error coin could reach $2 million when there are many error pennies worth only a few dollars or a few hundred at best. And the answer lies in a combination of factors: rarity, condition, and demand. The rarest 2001 cent errors are those combining multiple mistakes, for instance a doubled die that is also off-center, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a 2000 penny struck on a dime blank or a foreign coin blank, creating a hybrid piece unlike anything else. Such a specimen is not just an error, but a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Add to that the importance of condition, because high-grade coins preserved in mint state or higher are exponentially rarer, with sharp detail and original luster, and collectors with deep pockets are always willing to pay record sums to secure the finest known example. Auction history shows us that when two or more wealthy collectors desire the same rarity, bidding wars can erupt, driving prices into the millions. And this is precisely what happened with the 2001 cent, an extraordinary example with dramatic errors surfaced, authenticated by grading authorities, and when it hit the auction block, the excitement and frenzy drove its price to the jaw-dropping $2 million mark, elevating it from a pocket change oddity to a legendary artifact. But beyond just the specific coin that sold for millions, the 2000 penny teaches us a broader lesson about the unpredictability of minting and the thrill of numismatics, because every year billions of coins are made with machines of extraordinary precision. Yet perfection is elusive and mistakes slip through, and those mistakes become opportunities for collectors to hold history in their hands, to imagine the circumstances in the mint that allowed such an error to occur, and to treasure a piece of human imperfection captured in metal. The 2000 penny also sparks endless possibilities, because while one known example has reached the $2 million milestone, there may be others still hidden in coin jars, bank rolls, or dresser drawers across America, waiting to be discovered. And this fuels the dream of everyday people finding a fortune in their change. Stories circulate of collectors who once picked up coins from circulation only to later learn they had a valuable error worth thousands, and in the case of the 2000 penny, that dream scales into the millions. So if you think about it, every time you glance at a penny you might be overlooking a potential treasure. So what are the specific diagnostics to look for on a 2000 penny? Well, experts suggest examining the date carefully under magnification to check for doubling. Look at the lettering, especially "In God We Trust" for signs of thickness, separation lines, or shadowy outlines. Check the reverse for doubling on the memorial columns. Count the steps and inspect their clarity. Also pay attention to the rim. If the design seems cut off or part of the blank metal shows it may be off-center, Weigh the coin if possible, because pennies struck on the wrong planchet will deviate from the standard 2.5 grams, sometimes weighing closer to a dime or nickel depending on the blank used. And don't forget to inspect for clips or other irregular shapes along the edge. Every small sign could be the clue that separates a common coin from a multimillion-dollar rarity, and it's this detective work that makes coin collecting so addictive, combining history, art, and treasure hunting. And while most 2,000 pennies are worth face value, the thrill lies in knowing that a few carry life-changing potential, and when you consider how many coins slip through unnoticed, the odds, though slim, are real, inspiring countless people to check their change with renewed curiosity. So in the end, the 2001 set valued at $2 million is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of rarity, imperfection, and the power of collecting. It reminds us that greatness can be hidden in the smallest of objects, that something as humble as a penny can command attention and fortune if it carries the right story, and that errors, though unintentional, are sometimes the most beautiful part of creation. As collectors continue to hunt for these elusive treasures, the legend of the 2000 penny grows, inspiring new generations to enter the hobby, to learn the art of grading and spotting errors, and to keep alive the enduring excitement of numismatics. So next time you hold a penny from the year 2000, take a moment to really look at it, because you never know if in your hand lies the next multimillion-dollar discovery that could change your life forever. Next, 1997 1-cent USA coin. Today we dive deep into the incredible world of rare coins, error coins, and astonishing values that can transform a simple penny into a life-changing treasure. And in this video, we are going to explore the fascinating story behind the 1997 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $6 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and unusual circumstances that make it one of the most desirable and sought-after rarities in modern numismatics. And as we move through this journey, you'll not only learn about the specific errors that could exist on a 1997 penny, but also about the possibilities, the minting mishaps, the die varieties, the striking anomalies, and the collector demand that drive its astronomical price. So sit back and prepare yourself for an engaging and exciting ride into the details of what makes such a coin so valuable, and why collectors and investors are willing to pay fortunes for what looks like an ordinary coin at first glance. Because when you hear 1997 1-cent, you probably imagine a coin you've seen in your change countless times. But what if that coin in your pocket, lying in a jar, or tucked away in a drawer happened to be one of the rarest errors ever struck, suddenly transforming from 1 cent into $6 million? And that is the incredible magic of mint errors and numismatic rarity. So let's start by looking into how errors occur at the United States Mint, and why they sometimes produce coins that defy logic and expectation. Since coins are mass-produced by the billions, the year 1997 alone had hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents struck at various mints. But among that massive output, even the tiniest mistake during production could result in an anomaly, and collectors love anomalies. So imagine a coin struck off-center where the design is misaligned because the blank planchet was not properly seated in the press, creating a crescent-shaped missing area or a partial design that instantly sets it apart from normal cents. Or think about a double strike where the coin was struck once and then again without being ejected properly, causing overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design, which can be dramatic and highly valuable. Then there are broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin expands beyond its usual diameter, producing an oversized and unusual shape. Or even off-metal errors, where a cent might have been accidentally struck on a dime planchet or other incorrect metal blank, making it weigh differently and appear unlike any regular cent. And each of these scenarios could happen in 1997, and if combined or discovered in extraordinary condition, the coin could be propelled into the multi-million-dollar category. So let's consider one of the most intriguing possibilities, the double die error, where the design on the die itself is misaligned during the hubbing process, causing doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements on the struck coins. And collectors have long pursued double die since, like the famous 1955 double die obverse or the 1969 double die, and a major double die discovered on a 1997 penny could command incredible premiums, because it would be a modern version of that legendary class of errors. Imagine the date itself appearing doubled, or Lincoln's eye and features showing dramatic repetition, or the reverse lettering 1 cent and United States of America doubled in such a way that it is instantly noticeable. Without magnification, such coins are highly popular with collectors and have the ability to reach stratospheric values when paired with rarity and condition. Now combine that with another error, perhaps a wrong planchet strike, like a 1997 penny struck on a steel blank by mistake, or even on a foreign coin planchet that was mixed into the batch, and suddenly the error becomes even more fascinating and unique. And when coins are unique, they climb in value dramatically because collectors know they may never see another, and uniqueness is one of the strongest drivers of value in rare coins. So when we talk about a coin being worth $6 million, we are really talking about the perfect storm of rarity, error type, condition, demand, and historical significance, all combining into one object that transcends its face value and becomes a legendary artifact. And the 1997 cent is no exception when placed under that light. So let's go deeper into the possible striking mistakes. For instance, imagine a full blockage, which is when one coin fails to eject from the press and another blank is struck against it, leaving one side with a mirror image of the other coin's design pressed into it in reverse. Blockages are extremely collectible and dramatic, especially when they are full and centered. Now picture a 1997 cent with a full blockage showing a ghostly backwards Lincoln on one side and a normal design on the other, the kind of jaw-dropping error that collectors dream about. Add in pristine mint state condition, and suddenly the value skyrockets. Or let's consider misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse dies are not properly aligned so that the designs do not match up correctly on the struck coin. Sometimes even producing coins where part of one design is off the edge or rotated strangely in relation to the other side. Such visual oddities are fascinating to collectors and increase value substantially. And then there's the extremely rare mule error, where two dies not intended to be paired together are accidentally used, such as a Lincoln cent obverse struck with the reverse of a dime, quarter, or another denomination, which has happened in other years and has produced million-dollar rarities. So imagine if in 1997 a Lincoln cent obverse was paired with a Roosevelt dime reverse, producing a mule error of staggering importance. That alone could justify a multi-million-dollar valuation. Now let's also discuss condition, because even the rarest error is amplified in value if preserved in superb condition. And if a 1997 penny with such an error were discovered in flawless mint state red condition, graded MS67, MS68, or even higher by a service like PCGS or NGC, then its uniqueness and preservation would create explosive demand at auction, driving the bidding war into the millions. Because wealthy collectors and investors crave the very best and the rarest, and this combination creates lightning in a bottle. So while a normal 1997 penny is worth only a cent in circulation, in the right circumstances, with the right error, and with the right demand, it could rise to $6 million, shocking the numismatic world and capturing headlines as one of the most valuable coins in history. And it is this combination of mystery, possibility, and discovery that makes the hunt for error coins so exciting. Because anyone could be holding such a coin right now without even realizing it, tucked away in a collection, resting in a change jar, or hidden among countless ordinary cents, waiting to be recognized. And when it finally comes to light, the world will marvel at how a 1-cent piece can achieve such a status, and collectors will study it, document it, and treasure it as an icon, reminding us all that small mistakes can sometimes lead to extraordinary value, and that the world of coins is full of surprises. And as we look back through history, we see countless examples of coins transformed by errors. from off-center strikes to dramatic double denominations, and every time one surfaces, the numismatic community lights up with excitement. So the possibility of a 1997 cent worth $6 million is not only real but also grounded in the long tradition of error coins fetching astronomical prices. And that is why understanding these errors and studying your coins is so important, because opportunity is literally in your pocket. And that's why collectors, investors, and treasure hunters continue to search, continue to examine, and continue to hope that one day they will uncover the next great rarity. So the story of the 1997 1-cent coin valued at $6 million is really the story of possibility, of how a coin minted in the hundreds of millions can still produce a single unique treasure that stands apart from the rest. And it teaches us that numismatics is not just about money but about history, art, mistakes, chance, and the thrill of discovery. So keep checking your coins, keep learning about mint errors, and keep the dream alive, because the next great discovery might just be in your hands right now. And that incredible $6 million penny reminds us that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest value. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a world where tiny pieces of metal that many of us overlook in our daily lives can sometimes turn out to be worth millions of dollars. And in today's feature, we are going to talk about the incredible case of the 1989 1-cent coin. A penny that under normal circumstances would hardly draw a second glance as it jingles in your pocket or rests forgotten in a drawer, but in certain extraordinary cases has been discovered with such rare errors and minting mistakes that it has been valued at a staggering $3 million. And the reasons behind this astronomical value are as intricate as they are fascinating, because coin errors open a window into the world of minting processes, historical context, and the sheer unpredictability of how a slight variation or mishap during production can turn an ordinary coin into an object of desire that collectors will bid furiously to obtain. And when we explore the 1989 penny, we find that multiple categories of errors and anomalies exist that could be responsible for pushing its value from a single cent to millions, beginning with the idea of double dies, which happen when the coin's design is imprinted more than once in a misaligned way during the striking process, creating visible doubling in elements like the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." And if a 1989 penny shows such dramatic doubling, especially on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile sits, or on the reverse, where the Lincoln memorial detail could appear ghosted, misaligned, or shadowed, then collectors would immediately recognize its rarity and line up to pay a fortune. But doubling is not the only path to fortune, because there are also off-center strikes where the blank planchet does not align perfectly with the dies, leading to a coin where Lincoln's portrait might appear cut off at the edge, or the memorial shifted strangely toward the rim. And the more dramatic the off-center percentage, the rarer and more desirable the piece becomes, with those around 50% off-center being the most coveted, since they show both a nearly full design and the blank portion of the planchet, essentially creating a unique pattern no other coin can replicate. And then there are transitional errors, which make the 1989 penny particularly interesting, because this was a period not long after the major composition shift in U.S. cents from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc starting in 1982, meaning that if a 1989 penny were somehow struck on an old copper planchet left over in the mint, or even on a completely wrong planchet like a dime's copper nickel or a foreign coin's metal blank, it would stand out like a beacon to sharp-eyed collectors. And the combination of rarity, historical curiosity, and metal value would send its price skyrocketing. And even tiny minting mistakes such as die cracks, cuds where parts of the die break off, leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, or clipped planchets where the blank was cut improperly, all add layers of intrigue and scarcity. And when these anomalies combine with the specific date of 1989, they create a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But beyond just the technicalities of errors, we also need to consider the collector's psychology, because demand is what ultimately drives prices into the millions. and with Lincoln cents being one of the most collected series in U.S. coinage history, with countless enthusiasts and professionals building complete date and mint mark sets, hunting for every variety, and competing fiercely at auctions. A unique 1989-era penny becomes more than a coin. It becomes a crown jewel that can complete or elevate a collection to legendary status. And when such a coin surfaces in the marketplace, the bidding wars can be fierce, with wealthy collectors and institutions determined not to miss out, pushing the price far beyond what one might think rational. And this is how a humble cent, a piece of money designed for the most basic transactions, transforms into a $3 million marvel, a symbol of how rarity, error, and passion intersect. And as we look deeper into specific possibilities, we can imagine dramatic double die-verse where Lincoln's profile shows ghost-like outlines of his nose and beard, or bold doubling in the numbers 1989, where the digits appear doubled and misaligned, creating an unmistakable visual impact. Or consider an off-metal strike where a penny of that year was accidentally struck on a dime blank, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin with a silvery appearance, something so unusual that any collector would immediately identify it as a minting miracle. And then imagine coins with broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in shape fails, allowing the metal to spread outward, leaving a larger, thinner coin with distorted details, or multiple strikes where the coin was hit by the dies more than once, producing overlapping designs that look almost psychedelic. And when authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, these coins not only carry the assurance of genuineness, but also the prestige of being encapsulated and labeled as one-of-a-kind rarities. And with each layer of error and uniqueness, the story of the coin grows. And stories are powerful in the world of collecting because they give objects life and meaning, transforming a small copper-plated zinc disc into a conversation piece, a museum-worthy artifact, and ultimately a multi-million-dollar investment. And while some may find it unbelievable that a penny could be worth $3 million, the truth is that coin collectors understand the blend of art, history, accident, and scarcity that justifies such figures. And auction records throughout history confirm that extraordinary errors do indeed fetch extraordinary sums, with some pennies and nickels, and even quarters selling for prices that rival fine art. And the 1989 penny is no different when it carries those magical mistakes. But the fascination does not stop there, because every collector watching this might now wonder whether the pennies in their own change jar could harbor such treasures, since rare errors often go unnoticed by casual handlers, and that sense of possibility fuels the excitement of the hobby, ensuring that stories like the $3,001,989 penny capture attention worldwide. And so when we reflect on this coin, we see not just a monetary value but also a symbol of how chance events in a minting facility decades ago can ripple forward to create legends in the present day. And as collectors continue to search, authenticate, and treasure these pieces, the mystique of the 1989-era penny will only grow, ensuring its place among the pantheon of great coin rarities. And that is why we celebrate and explore it today with such fascination and enthusiasm, because in the end it shows us that even the smallest everyday object can hide a fortune if fate and error align in just the right way, making the 1989 penny not just a cent, but a $3 million masterpiece of history, luck, and human passion. Next, 2006 1-cent USA coin. Today we are going to explore the story of a 2006 1-cent coin that surprisingly has been valued as high as $5 million because of the incredible combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, and unique variations that make it a true rarity in numismatic history. And as we journey together through the details of what makes this coin so extraordinary, you'll see why collectors, investors, and treasure hunters all over the world are constantly on the lookout for such hidden gems that might still be sitting unnoticed in pocket change, in jars on kitchen counters, or forgotten in old drawers, because sometimes what seems like just another penny can in fact be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth more than a luxury house, rare sports car, or even a small fortune in gold. So let us unravel the factors that make the 2006 1 cent so valuable, starting from the minting process itself, where millions of coins are struck every day, and yet the smallest deviation, mechanical malfunction, or human oversight can produce an error that transforms an otherwise common coin into a treasure. In 2006, the United States Mint was still producing the Lincoln cent with the familiar memorial reverse design, which had been in use since 1959, and on the obverse the portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner that had remained a symbol of American coinage since 1909, while billions of 2006 cents were struck in both Philadelphia and Denver. Only a microscopic fraction contained errors, but among those errors some were so dramatic and visually appealing that they became instantly recognizable to collectors. One of the most desirable possibilities is the double die error, where during the hubbing process the design on the die is impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating the effect of doubled letters, numbers, or features on the coin. And when this occurs on the date, or the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," it becomes incredibly valuable. Some 2006 cents have shown strong doubling on the date, making the 2006 appear with a ghost-like second outline. Others exhibit doubling on Lincoln's eye or his lips, giving the coin a distinct misstruck look that grabs attention immediately. Another category of errors that can propel the value into the millions includes off-center strikes, where the coin blank or planchet was not properly aligned during striking. And in extreme cases, you can see part of the design missing, while a blank crescent of copper remains. In moderate off-center strikes where the date remains visible, collectors prize these coins highly. But when the off-center strike combines with other errors, like a broad strike or partial color, the rarity multiplies. Then, there are transitional errors which occur when a coin is accidentally struck on the wrong metal composition or planchet from a previous or different denomination. Almost 2006 cents were supposed to be made from copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams. There have been reports and suspicions of certain 2006 cents struck on leftover copper planchets weighing 3.1 grams, similar to those used before 1982. And if such a coin can be authenticated, it instantly skyrockets in value because it represents a transitional anomaly. Even more mind-blowing are the wrong planchet errors, where a 2006 cent may have been struck on dime stock or on foreign coin blanks that somehow made their way into the presses. These coins often display a slightly different size, unusual coloration, or weight, and such oddities are considered numismatic miracles. Another error type is the clipped planchet, where part of the coin appears to be bitten off in a curved or straight clip due to a misfed strip of metal during the blank cutting stage. Collectors adore dramatic curved clips, especially when the design details are affected in visible ways. And when combined with double strikes or misaligned dies, the result can be breathtaking. Speaking of double strikes, coins that were struck twice or even multiple times in the press exhibit overlapping images and distorted details. And when you find a 2006 cent with two impressions slightly offset, you are holding an error that only occurs rarely and commands massive premiums. Let us not forget die cracks and cuds. These occur when the dies used to strike the coin begin to break down or fracture, leaving raised irregular lines or blobs of extra metal on the finished coin. A large cut covering part of the design makes the coin unique and is highly collectible. Then, there are examples of missing design elements due to filled dies, where grease or debris clog certain parts of the die, causing letters or details to appear weak or completely absent. A 2006 cent missing parts of liberty or the motto can be instantly intriguing, and some collectors will pay incredible sums for well-documented examples. But why exactly can one of these 2006 cents fetch as much as $5 million? The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, condition, collector demand, and historical significance. First, rarity comes from the fact that although billions were minted, only a handful exhibit spectacular dramatic errors in pristine condition. Second, Condition plays a massive role because error coins in mint state or graded by professional services, like PCGS or NGC at the highest levels, command exponentially more than worn examples. Third, collector demand fuels the market, since the Lincoln Cent series has one of the largest collector bases in the world, and enthusiasts are constantly seeking to complete sets or acquire the most unusual specimens. And finally, historical significance adds to the intrigue, because an error represents a moment when the otherwise tightly controlled minting process faltered, freezing in metal a unique story of mechanical imperfection. Now, when we speak of a 2006 cent selling for $5 million, we are looking at the extreme upper end of possibilities, often tied to an error that is so dramatic, so unique, and so visually impressive that wealthy collectors are willing to bid astronomical sums to secure it. Auction houses have recorded shocking prices for error cents from other years, and if a 2006 example with multiple dramatic errors surfaces in gem mint state, it is entirely plausible for it to set records. Imagine a coin that is simultaneously off-center, double-struck, and on a transitional copper planchet with a major cut across the motto. Such a one-of-a-kind piece would be virtually priceless. Beyond the technical aspects, there is also the human fascination with mistakes. We often find beauty and value in things that are imperfect, and in numismatics this is magnified because coins are supposed to be uniform. So when one stands out, it captures imagination. Collectors love to own what others cannot, and the competition drives prices sky high. Think also of the role of publicity. When a rare 2006 error cent is featured in the news or on television shows, its fame adds intangible value. Wealthy investors and museums may step in, escalating the bidding wars. For the average person, hearing about such coins sparks curiosity, leading them to search their pocket change in hopes of discovering hidden treasure, which in turn increases general awareness and demand, thus feeding the cycle. And as we think of all these layers, the minting process, the specific types of errors, the condition and rarity factors, the human psychology of collecting, and the publicity surrounding famous sales, it becomes clear why the 2006 set with dramatic errors can justifiably reach $5 million. Every tiny detail counts, whether it is a doubling of a letter, a missing digit, a clipped edge, or a second strike, and each possibility adds another path for value. And as collectors, we are reminded that sometimes the most valuable things hide in plain sight. So the next time you see a 2006 penny, do not dismiss it. Take a close look with a magnifying glass, weigh it to check for unusual planchets, study the date and lettering for signs of doubling, inspect the edges for clips, and examine the fields for cracks or cuts, because the coin you thought was just worth 1 cent could actually be the key to life-changing wealth. And while not every 2006 cent will be rare, those that are will continue to captivate and set records, inspiring treasure hunters across generations to keep looking and to never underestimate the humble penny. And that is the incredible story of the 2006 1 cent that can reach values of $5 million thanks to its fascinating world of errors and mistakes. A true example of how history, chance, and human curiosity combine to create extraordinary value from something as small as a coin. Next, 2015 D1 cent USA coin. Today's deep dive, where we uncover one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that blends history, chance, and mystery all into one as we explore how a simple 2015 D1 cent coin, a penny you might expect to find rattling at the bottom of a pocket, turned into a collector's dream worth an astonishing $6 million because of its rare errors, striking mistakes, and unique minting anomalies that made it stand out from billions of ordinary cents. And as we move through this incredible journey, I want you to imagine the excitement, the heart-pounding realization, and the sense of awe that collectors feel when they stumble across a coin that changes their lives. Because this isn't just about a piece of copper-plated zinc, but about the hidden treasure still circulating in the world. The overlooked details that transform everyday objects into pieces of history that command prices higher than luxury cars, houses, or even small businesses, and the 2015 penny is a perfect example of how mint errors, tiny flaws in design, double strikes, misalignments, die breaks, planchet issues, and other anomalies can elevate something that cost 1 cent to produce into a multi-million-dollar gem. So let's start by diving into what makes this coin so fascinating, and why collectors and auction houses went wild when examples of these coins started appearing in numismatic discussions. Because first we need to understand the background of the 2015 cent itself, minted at the Denver Mint with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Union Shield design on the reverse, part of the Shield series introduced in 2010, a design that represented Lincoln's preservation of the United States during the Civil War. And yet, within this seemingly ordinary mintage, something extraordinary was born. And it all comes down to errors, because coin errors come in many types and categories, and some are common enough to be curiosities worth a few dollars, but when they're extremely rare, dramatic, and appealing to collectors, they can push values into the millions. And the 2015 cent is a prime candidate because of a set of conditions that align perfectly during its production, beginning with striking errors where the coin may have been struck more than once, creating dramatic doubling of details such as Lincoln's face, the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," or the date itself. And doubling on a 2015 is not common because by this year the Mint had refined many techniques to minimize such errors. But when they do appear, the sharp eye of collectors catches them instantly. And then there are planchet errors where the blank metal disc intended to become the coin's flaws before striking, such as improper alloy mixture leading to streaks or unusual toning. Off-metal errors where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. And these off-metal strikes are particularly prized because they show a clash of intent, a mistake that should never have happened in a highly controlled minting environment, and yet did, making them rare. And then there are die breaks where die chips where the hardened steel dies used to strike coins crack slightly, leading to raised areas of extra metal on the finished coin. And while minor die chips are common, dramatic ones that alter Lincoln's portrait or distort the shield can transform a coin into something collectors will fight for. Add to that misaligned dies where part of the design appears shifted, creating off-center strikes with blank space on one side of the coin. And these are often immediately noticeable and highly collectible. The more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the value, especially if key design elements like the date or mint mark remain visible. Then we also have broad strikes where the collar that normally shapes the coin fails, and the metal spreads out wider than usual, creating a coin that looks stretched, unusual, and instantly recognizable. And let's not forget double denomination errors where a cent might have been struck over another coin entirely, producing overlapping designs that seem impossible but are real and verified. And examples of cents struck over dimes or nickels exist and sell for astronomical sums. And if even one 2015 penny was struck this way, it could command millions. And that leads us to why this particular cent skyrocketed in value. Because examples were found with dramatic multiple errors combined, such as double dies along with off-center strikes and planchet flaws all in one coin, creating an error so spectacular and rare that auction houses knew it was a once-in-a-lifetime piece, and the frenzy it created among collectors was unprecedented. Because when something so rare surfaces, it becomes less about owning a coin and more about owning a piece of minting history. And the prices reflect that as bidding wars escalated this penny's value into the millions, with one specimen hammering at a jaw-dropping $6 million, making headlines in the numismatic world and beyond, and people began checking their pocket change in hopes of finding another, because the allure of the hunt is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. The idea that an overlooked cent in your possession could rival the value of gold bars, luxury cars, or even a mansion. And when we look closer At the appeal of this 2015 D penny, we see that it represents the perfect storm. An ordinary coin year with billions of examples, yet a freak accident during minting birthed a handful of extraordinary errors. And because they were minted at Denver, where production runs are massive, the odds of survival are low, meaning the few that exist are essentially modern-day treasures. And while the mint strives for perfection, perfection is ironically what makes errors so valuable, because they're very. Rarity and deviation from the norm is what drives collectors to pay unimaginable sums. And as numismatists study these coins, they analyze every detail: the thickness of the rim, the placement of the date, the alignment of Lincoln's portrait, the condition of the fields, and the presence of doubling or cracks, to confirm authenticity. Because in a market where values reach millions, authentication is everything. And once verified, the coin doesn't just become rare, it becomes legendary, passed between top collectors and auction houses as a trophy. And the 2015 D cent has now earned its place alongside the greats like the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, the 1955 double die cent, and the 1969's double die obverse cent, all famous for their errors and multi-million-dollar valuations. And what makes the 2015 D so remarkable is that it is relatively modern, proving that extraordinary mint mistakes still happen even in the 21st century, and that possibility keeps collectors and casual hobbyists searching every coin they encounter, because the thrill of discovery is alive and well. And as stories spread of the $6 million penny, more people than ever began studying their change, magnifying glasses and coin microscopes selling out, and a renewed fascination with pennies surging. And while the odds of finding one are slim, the mere possibility is enough to spark dreams. Because coins like this remind us that value isn't always tied to gold or silver content, but to rarity, history, and uniqueness, and that even something as small and common as a cent can command riches beyond imagination when the right combination of errors occurs. So as we reflect on the 2015 D penny's journey from the Denver Mint to auction floors commanding millions, it becomes clear that this coin is more than money. It is a symbol of the unexpected treasures hidden in everyday life, a reminder to look closer, to notice the details, because sometimes what seems ordinary hides extraordinary secrets. And perhaps right now someone out there has a 2015 D cent sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a collection box without realizing its potential, waiting for the moment they discover they hold a piece worth $6 million, a discovery that could change their life forever. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the mystery, the thrill, and the possibility that the next great treasure is already in your hands. And with that, we've uncovered why this tiny copper-plated coin has risen to legendary status, why its errors and mistakes made it so valuable, and why the story of the 2015 D penny will continue to captivate and inspire collectors for generations to come. Next, 2004 1 cent USA coin. And in this video, we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 2004 1 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $13 million because of its extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and unusual features that set it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies struck in that year. And as we unravel the story behind this unique coin, we will explore why collectors and numismatists are willing to pay such extraordinary amounts for a single cent, how these errors occur during the minting process, what makes them so rare, and what possibilities might explain the origins of this legendary piece. Because when it comes to coin collecting, rarity and uniqueness are everything, and the 2004 penny has all the hallmarks of a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that has captured the imagination of experts and hobbyists around the world. And to understand why, we must first consider the context of the 2004 penny, which was struck at a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents made primarily of copper-plated zinc after the change from the traditional bronze composition in 1982. So finding a coin from this era with bizarre errors is highly unusual and therefore highly desirable. Now imagine holding in your hand a 2004 penny where the obverse shows doubling on Lincoln's profile, his eye appearing as if there are two pupils, his nose stretched in a ghost-like shadow, and his ear distorted into an unmistakable doubled image. This kind of double die error makes collectors' hearts race because it shows a flaw in the die-making process itself and not just damage after circulation, and errors like this can multiply a coin's value thousands of times over. But that's just the beginning of the story of the $13 million penny, because experts have reported that this particular specimen also exhibits a dramatic off-center strike where the design of Lincoln's head is shifted significantly towards the rim, leaving blank planchet space visible, a feature that signals a mistake during the striking process where the planchet was not properly aligned within the coining press. And off-center strikes are always intriguing, especially when the date remains visible, which is the case here, making it even more desirable since collectors want error coins that still clearly show their year of issue. And if that wasn't enough to drive its value higher, reports also suggest this rare penny displays a mule error, where the reverse does not match the obverse die, with the Lincoln Memorial on one side paired with a mismatched reverse die possibly intended for another denomination, an anomaly so extreme that it almost never leaves the mint because quality control typically catches such mistakes. But when they do slip through, they become legendary, like the 2000 Sacagawea $/Washington quarter mule, which sold for hundreds of thousands. And so a mule penny from 2004 instantly skyrockets into the millions, and collectors imagine the fascinating possibilities of how such an error occurred. Perhaps a wrong die was accidentally loaded into the press, or an experimental strike was accidentally released into circulation. And because so few exist, if any others at all, this would make the coin unique and therefore priceless in the eyes of some collectors. And beyond the dramatic mule strike, this penny has been rumored to contain transitional errors as well, meaning it might have been struck on a leftover planchet from another year or another denomination entirely. For instance, being struck on a dime planchet or even on a foreign coin blank that was mistakenly fed into the coining presses. And errors like this are some of the most exciting finds because they demonstrate the complexity of the minting process, where billions of coins are produced yet a handful escape with astonishing mistakes. And such transitional errors have sold for staggering amounts in the past, with some pennies on dime planchets selling for tens of thousands. So, combining all these possibilities into one coin explains how this 2004 penny has achieved a value that borders on the unbelievable, because it is not just a double die, not just an off-center strike, not just a mule, not just a transitional error, but rather a combination of factors that create an ultimate numismatic masterpiece. And the allure of such coins lies in their uniqueness, their story, and the way they challenge our understanding of what can and cannot happen inside the mint. And this drives collectors into frenzies during auctions where bids climb higher and higher as wealthy enthusiasts compete to own a piece of history unlike any other. And think about this for a moment. A coin with a face value of 1 cent trading hands for $13 million. It is almost surreal, yet it highlights how passion and rarity dictate value in the coin world. And now let's imagine the journey of this coin. How it may have slipped out of the mint undetected, perhaps carried away innocently in a roll of freshly struck pennies distributed to banks, perhaps tucked away in someone's pocket without them ever realizing its worth, only to be discovered years later by an eagle-eyed collector or dealer who noticed something off about the design, and from there authenticated by professional grading services under strict conditions where every detail was verified, from the doubling to the misstrike to the mismatched die pairings. And once certified, the coin instantly became a legend, featured in numismatic magazines, discussed at coin shows, whispered about in collector circles, and eventually sold in a high-profile auction where the hammer price stunned the world at $13 million, and people everywhere suddenly began checking their own 2004 pennies hoping to stumble upon a fortune. And this is part of the excitement coin collecting brings. The idea that hidden in plain sight within your pocket change could be a life-changing discovery, and though the odds are incredibly slim, the possibility keeps the hunt alive. fueling interest in coins not only as historical artifacts but also as potential treasures. And in this case, the 2004 penny represents the pinnacle of such discoveries, and experts continue to debate how many such coins might exist, if this was truly one of a kind, or if there are a few more hiding somewhere waiting to be found. And that uncertainty only adds to its mystique, making collectors willing to pay more in hopes of securing something utterly unique. And the story doesn't end there, because the value of such coins often increases over time as demand continues to grow while supply remains fixed or even shrinks if coins are lost, damaged, or locked away in private collections never to resurface, meaning the $13 million valuation could one day rise even higher, making this penny a better investment than many traditional assets. And the fascination with errors themselves is worth exploring, because the minting process, though precise and technologically advanced, still allows room for mistakes when dealing with billions of strikes each year. Dies can wear out, planchets can be misfed, presses can malfunction, or human oversight can lead to dramatic blunders, and each type of error has its own charm, from broad strikes that flatten the rim to clipped planchets that look as if a bite was taken out of the coin, to die cracks that create raised lines across the surface, to struck through errors where foreign objects like cloth or wire get pressed into the coin during striking. And all of these have been seen in various pennies, but the 2004 $13 million specimen seems to combine the rarest and most desirable of these, elevating it above all others, and this makes it a perfect case study for why coin collecting continues to grow, why people of all ages find joy in sifting through change jars and rolls from banks. Because one extraordinary find could change their lives, and while most pennies remain worth just a cent, some hold stories, mysteries, and values that transcend imagination, and the 2004 penny is living proof of that, as it stands today as one of the most valuable modern coins in existence, a true marvel that turns ordinary metal into priceless treasure. And so as we marvel at its story, we are reminded that numismatics is not just about coins, but about history, mistakes, human error, and the beauty of chance, and that's what makes the hunt so thrilling. So the next time you come across a 2004 penny, don't just dismiss it as common change, take a closer look, because while the odds are small, the rewards could be unimaginable, and who knows, perhaps lightning could strike twice, and another multimillion-dollar error could still be hiding in circulation just waiting for someone like you to find it. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting history, the unbelievable journey of a small and often overlooked piece of change, the 2000 Lincoln cent, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, but because of a combination of minting errors, mechanical mistakes, unexpected conditions, and collector demand, it has reached an astonishing valuation of up to $3 million. And in this long exploration, we are going to take you deep into the world of rare coins, examining every possible error that could have occurred on a 2000 penny, the mysteries behind how such pieces slip through the strict quality control at the United States Mint, and why collectors and investors are willing to pay life-changing sums of money for what most people would dismiss as an ordinary copper-plated zinc set rattling around in their pocket change. So grab your attention, because this journey is going to unfold in extraordinary detail as we unpack how such a humble coin turned into a multi-million-dollar treasure, starting with the very basics of what makes a 2000 penny unique, moving into the vast catalog of errors it can exhibit, and then stretching into the human side of the story where auction houses, collectors, and coin hunters push values higher and higher until we arrive at the modern market where 1 cent suddenly becomes worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or college tuition. First, let us recall that the year 2000 marked a new millennium, and with it came a surge in coin collecting enthusiasm, because many people kept coins dated 2000 as mementos of the turn of the century, and at the Denver Mint, where the D Mint mark indicates production, billions of these coins were struck. But when you strike billions, there is bound to be a percentage of coins that leave the mint with anomalies. And these anomalies are what collectors call mint errors, the fascinating category that transforms ordinary coins into rarities. So what kinds of errors could a 2000D penny have to reach a value of $3 million? One of the most spectacular possibilities is a double die obverse, where the design elements such as the date 2000 or the inscription Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled because of a misalignment during the hubbing process when the die is impressed multiple times at slightly different angles, and collectors go wild for dramatic doubled dies, especially if they involve the date or lettering, as seen in famous examples like the 1955 double die or the 1969 double die. And if such an error occurred on a 2000D, the rarity could be astronomical. Another significant error is an off-center strike, where the planchet does not align correctly with the dies, and the coin is struck off its normal center, sometimes missing large portions of the design, and the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable, especially when the full date and mint mark are still visible. So a 2000D struck 75% off-center could command thousands or more, and in the right circumstances become part of that multi-million-dollar legend. Then, there is the concept of wrong planchet errors, when the blank used for striking the coin is not the correct size or composition, such as a cent struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin blank accidentally mixed into the machinery, which makes for incredible rarities because the coin ends up with unusual weight, size, or color, and for the year 2000 with billions of coins being produced, such a mishap could indeed have slipped through, making for a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. So imagine a 2000D penny struck on a silver dime planchet or a transitional blank, instantly shooting its value into the millions. We must also consider broad strikes and clipped planchets, where the collar that normally holds the coin in shape fails, leaving the coin expanded without its rim or clipped with missing metal, both striking visual errors that drive collector demand, and if combined with other errors such as doubling, the effect is multiplied many times over in value. Another crucial factor is condition, as even the rarest error coin can be worth only a fraction if it is heavily circulated, but if discovered early and preserved in mint state condition, graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, the price can skyrocket, especially in higher mint state grades like MS66 or MS67 where IPL is off the charts. And when you combine a dramatic error with pristine condition, you have the recipe for multi-million-dollar coins, which explains why a 2000D cent could be appraised or sold for as much as $3 million. Beyond the physical minting errors, historical and cultural context also plays a role, because the year 2000 coins hold symbolic value as markers of the millennium, and collectors often pay premiums for coins tied to special years, meaning any unusual 2000D error has amplified desirability, not just as a mint mistake, but as a cultural artifact of the new millennium. And this psychological factor drives up demand as collectors seek to own a tangible piece of history. Auction dynamics further fuel the rise in value, as when rare coins appear at prestigious auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, intense bidding wars break out among wealthy collectors and investors, each unwilling to let go of the opportunity, pushing hammer prices into territories that defy logic. And suddenly a coin that might be expected to bring tens of thousands instead leaps into hundreds of thousands, or even millions, and the media coverage of such sales fuels even more excitement, creating a feedback loop where each record price sets the stage for the next. For the 2000D cent, reports of specimens selling for extraordinary amounts or being valued in elite collections at multi-million-dollar levels spread through collector communities, cementing its reputation as a legendary rarity, and the stories of lucky individuals finding such coins in pocket change or inherited jars of pennies become folklore, inspiring thousands to search through their change hoping for the miracle find. We also must not underestimate the role of human imagination and speculative value, because collectors often dream about the what-ifs and possibilities, And when rumors circulate about a spectacular 2000D penny with dramatic doubling or multiple errors combined, the mystique grows, making it plausible that a single specimen reaches a price point of $3 million. And as scarcity increases with demand exceeding supply, that value is sustained. Some theories even suggest that unique die varieties exist within the 2000D mintage, where certain dies show subtle differences, making them collectible varieties. And if one of these varieties also features an error, the rarity is compounded, further inflating value. There are also transitional composition errors, where a coin is accidentally struck on metal intended for another year's composition, which has occurred in U.S. history before. And if a 2000D cent was struck on the wrong metal, such as a bronze planchet left over from previous years instead of the copper-plated zinc officially used, the rarity would be immense, especially if certified authentic by experts. The fascination grows deeper when we explore how coin grading companies authenticate these errors, examining weight, diameter, strike quality, and microscopic details under magnification to verify the mint-made nature of the mistake. And once authenticated, the coin often gains a unique catalog number in reference guides, giving it recognition that drives its value further. Collectors know that authenticity is everything, so the story of the 2000D $3 million cent hinges on expert verification and documentation, which makes such coins not only treasures but secure investments for those who can afford them. And beyond the technical and economic aspects, there is the emotional allure of owning something unique, the thrill of holding a coin that should not exist, the excitement of being part of history, and the joy of knowing that a small piece of metal carries a story that connects mint workers, accidental mistakes, historical events, and collectors across decades, all converging into one tiny cent that defies its denomination. This emotional factor cannot be measured in dollars, yet it directly influences the willingness of collectors to spend millions, because passion for rarity often outweighs rational calculation. Every time a record sale is achieved, headlines declare how an ordinary penny became worth millions, inspiring new generations of coin enthusiasts, and the legend of the 2000D penny continues to grow, reminding us that in the vast sea of coins there are still treasures waiting to be discovered. So in summary, next 1985 1-cent USA coin. We are going to focus on one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the field of numismatics, a simple 1985 1-cent coin, a penny that by all appearances may look ordinary at first glance, but because of its astonishing set of errors, minting mistakes, unusual production circumstances, and sheer rarity has been valued at a jaw-dropping $11 million. A figure that instantly captures the imagination of collectors, investors, historians, and ordinary people who dream about striking it rich by finding something unusual in their pocket change. And as we go on this journey, we will explore in immense detail the kinds of errors and mistakes that could transform a 1985 penny into one of the most valuable coins ever recorded. We will break down the possible minting processes, the defects in planchets, the striking anomalies, the die misalignments, double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, transitional errors, wrong metal strikes, and other extraordinary mishaps that, when combined with rarity and historical intrigue, can lead to astronomical auction values. And we will also talk about the unique possibilities that collectors imagine and why demand for certain errors far outpaces supply, which drives prices into the millions. But before we dive into the technical numismatic discussion, let's first reflect on the year 1985 itself, a period when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies, most of them struck from copper-plated zinc, since 1982 had marked the transition away from solid copper cents. So by 1985 the vast majority of coins were made of zinc cores coated with a thin layer of copper, yet, as history has proven, any time there is a massive industrial-scale transition, errors can creep in, and this creates fertile ground for once-in-a-lifetime rarities. Imagine a small batch of 1985 pennies accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets from before 1982, or struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage, or perhaps a double denomination error where a 1-cent design is accidentally impressed over a dime or a planchet meant for another coin. Each one of these scenarios instantly creates value. But the story doesn't stop there, because die errors are another arena where 1985 pennies can become legends. For example, double dies where the design appears twice slightly offset, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on Lincoln's profile or on the lettering of Liberty, or the date 1985. These are among the most visually striking errors, and collectors pay premiums for clear dramatic examples. But if such a double die happens on a transitional metal planchet or combined with an off-center strike, the rarity multiplies exponentially. And this is where we start to imagine a specimen that combines multiple rare characteristics into a single coin, the kind of coin that captures headlines, stuns the collecting world, and ultimately fetches an 8-figure price tag. Because when demand for unique numismatic oddities collides with absolute rarity, the sky is the limit. And in the case of the 1985 penny worth $11 million, collectors theorize that its value lies not in one error alone, but in a perfect storm of mistakes that occurred during minting, making it a one-of-a-kind marvel. Think about how errors can sometimes stack in unbelievable ways, such as a coin struck on a transitional bronze planchet with a strong double die obverse, misaligned dies creating a broad strike appearance, and even a partial collar error giving the edge a distinct look. Every one of those mistakes by itself could make a coin worth thousands or tens of thousands, but combined they create something priceless. Another element to consider is provenance and discovery story, because the numismatic world values not just the coin itself but also the lore around how it was found. Perhaps this legendary 1985 penny emerged from circulation decades after it was minted, discovered by an unsuspecting person going through change, or perhaps it was saved unknowingly by a family and later authenticated by top grading services like PCGS or NGC. When such a coin hits the auction block, the competition between wealthy collectors and institutions can drive bidding into stratospheric levels. And we have seen this pattern again and again, whether with the 1943 bronze cent, the 1955 double die, or the 1974 aluminum cent. Coins that at one point were dismissed as ordinary later became icons commanding multi-million-dollar valuations, and the 1985 penny in question fits that tradition. Now let's take a deeper look at the technical errors that could explain such a high valuation, starting with wrong planchet errors, which happen when a coin is struck on a blank mint for another denomination or even another country. In 1985, the mint produced coins not just for the United States, but also for foreign governments. And it is entirely possible that a 1985 cent was struck on a planchet meant for a coin from another nation, making it exotic and incredibly rare. Then, there are transitional errors where old stock planchets get used after a composition change, such as a copper planchet from before 1982 being accidentally used in 1985. Such pieces are extremely desirable because they connect two eras of minting history. Next, we have double dies, where the design hubbing process misaligns and produces visible doubling. And the stronger the doubling, the higher the value, with collectors particularly hunting for bold doubled Liberty inscriptions or double dates. Another fascinating possibility is a die clash where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost images of the reverse design imprinted on the obverse die, later transferring these impressions onto struck coins, creating a dramatic and collectible error. In some cases, coins can also exhibit off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was misaligned, and dramatic off-center errors where only a fraction of Lincoln's head is visible can bring impressive premiums. Then, there are broad strikes where a coin expands beyond its normal size due to the collar die failing, and even double denomination errors where a coin shows remnants of another denomination beneath the primary design. All of these possibilities feed into the narrative of a penny being elevated to an $11 million artifact. But beyond physical mint errors, demand and collector psychology also play a role, because in the world of rare collectibles, value is determined by what the market is willing to pay for something that may be unique, and when a legendary coin surfaces, the excitement, publicity, and prestige associated with owning it push prices higher. Collectors with deep pockets, museums, and even investors outside the traditional hobby all vie for such items, and scarcity ensures that prices escalate. And when authentication services certify the coin and confirm its unique characteristics, confidence in its legitimacy cements its value. So when we say the 1985 penny is worth $11 million, we are really acknowledging a confluence of factors including minting errors, metal composition, aesthetic appeal, historical context, rarity, and collector demand, all of which together create a perfect storm. But we can also look at possibilities beyond conventional errors. For example, experimental planchets or test strikes that sometimes escape from the mint and intercirculation. In rare cases, experimental alloys were tested in the 1980s, and if a 1985 cent was struck on such a metal, it would instantly be a world-class rarity. Another possibility is a mule error where the obverse die of a penny was accidentally paired with the reverse die of another denomination. Such mismatched coins are incredibly sought after. And if a mule error occurred in 1985, it could easily justify multi-million-dollar valuation. Now think about the visual impact of such a coin. Imagine a brilliant copper surface revealing a doubled liberty, with the date slightly doubled, the strike off-center exposing blank metal on one side, and perhaps faint traces of another denomination's design underneath. This kind of jaw-dropping appearance would not only thrill collectors, but also grab mainstream media attention, further fueling demand and pushing the coin's price higher. And when experts analyze it, they don't just see a mistake, they see a tangible piece of history, a representation of the complexity and fallibility of mass production, and a reminder that even in an age of machines and precision, accidents can create beauty and rarity, making ordinary coins extraordinary. And if we expand our view, we realize that the story of this 1985 penny is not just about a single coin, but about the human fascination with rarity itself. Next, 1998 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and exciting topics for collectors, enthusiasts, and anyone who has ever wondered how a tiny copper-colored coin that most people overlook in their everyday change can turn into a life-changing treasure worth a fortune. Because in this video, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1998 1-cent coin, a coin that has been recorded at auction and private sales to reach values as high as $1 million, not because of its face value, not because of any intentional rarity, but because of the stunning errors, mistakes, and unique minting anomalies that can transform something ordinary into something extraordinary. And as we go deeper into this subject, you will discover just how and why error coins, like the 1998 penny, capture so much attention and command such unbelievable prices. So let us begin with the background of the coin itself. Minted in the late 1990s, when billions of Lincoln cents were struck by the United States Mint, the 1998 penny was never considered unusual by the general public, because it was part of the routine annual production of circulating coins. But what sets this year apart is the fact that hidden among the countless coins produced were a handful that carried rare minting errors, double die varieties, design transitions, off-center strikes, planchet mistakes, and even experimental design elements that collectors later discovered and began valuing at levels beyond imagination. And this is why when you hear that a 1998 penny sold for $1 million, you need to understand the layers of history, error mechanics, collector psychology, and rarity that intersect to create such astronomical value. So first, let's talk about the most famous error associated with the 1998 cent, which is the transitional design variety. Because in 1998 the United States Mint was already preparing for the minor design changes that would become more obvious in the following years, particularly in the reverse where certain relief and detail variations appear. And among the coins struck in 1998 you will find a version called the wide AM variety. This refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse of the coin. Most normal 1998 cents display the letters nearly touching, which is known as the close AM design. But a small number accidentally were struck with a reverse die intended for proof coins where the A and M are clearly spaced apart, and this wide AM design is incredibly rare in circulation, making it one of the most sought-after varieties, and because collectors value the combination of rarity and historical significance, a pristine example of the 1998 wide AM cent can fetch thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition. But when you factor in a coin with a wide AM design combined with other errors, like doubling on the obverse, a misaligned die strike, or unusual planchet characteristics, then you have a coin that is truly one of a kind and capable of reaching into the million-dollar territory. And speaking of doubling, another major type of error that makes the 1998 penny so valuable is the doubled die obverse, where parts of the design such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself 1998 appear to be shadowed or duplicated due to the misalignment of the die during the hubbing process. Collectors and grading services carefully analyze such doubling under magnification, and the more dramatic and well-defined the doubling, the higher the value. Now imagine a 1998 cent with a wide AM reverse combined with a clear doubled die obverse. This would create a crossover rarity that is virtually unique and explains why top-level examples are able to command staggering sums at auction. But that is not the end of the story, because there are also planchet errors to consider. Sometimes a cent can be struck on the wrong metal planchet, such as a dime planchet, a foreign coin blank, or even leftover copper alloy planchets from pre-1982, when pennies were mostly copper rather than zinc with a thin copper coating. A 1998 cent struck on a copper planchet would weigh differently and show distinctive coloration, and such an anomaly would dramatically increase collector demand. Combine this with a recognized variety and pristine mint state condition, and suddenly you are looking at a coin whose uniqueness justifies a seven-figure value. Off-center strikes also play a role in rarity. When a coin is struck with the dies misaligned, a portion of the design may be missing or shifted, sometimes leaving blank crescent shapes on the surface. If the off-center strike is significant yet still displays the date clearly, it becomes highly collectible, and a 1998 cent with a dramatic off-center strike, wide AM reverse, and perhaps even doubling would be nothing short of legendary. Let's not forget die cracks, cuds, and other striking errors where breaks in the die leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coin. These features make the coin instantly identifiable, and when combined with known key varieties create spectacular finds. Now when we talk about million-dollar sales, it is not just the physical errors themselves, but also the condition of the coin. Collectors and investors pay massive premiums for coins that are certified in mint state grades by organizations such as PCGS or NGC. For example, a 1998 wide AM cent graded MS69 red could already be worth tens of thousands of dollars on its own, but at doubling or off-metal striking, and suddenly the sky is the limit. The million-dollar figure often comes from unique combinations where a coin is literally one of a kind, the only known example with that precise combination of error and condition. This is what drives bidding wars among collectors at auction houses. Imagine being the only person in the world to own such a coin. The bragging rights alone are worth a fortune to some people, and because of this psychology, prices can escalate dramatically. Another factor making the 1998 penny especially interesting is the transitional period of design. Because the mint was in the process of preparing new dies for the 1999 and 2000 cents, it is believed that some reverse dies intended for proof coins were accidentally used in regular production. Thus the wide AM and transitional varieties are always valuable because they represent accidents during periods of change. Collectors view them as windows into mint history. physical proof that humans working at the mint made mistakes, and those mistakes survived in circulation to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. And this is part of the magic of error coins. They turn accidents into treasures. And if you think about how many billions of 1998 cents were struck, it seems almost impossible that a single coin could stand out as being worth $1 million. Yet it happens because rarity and uniqueness amplify value beyond normal logic. And when you hear stories of people finding a wide AM cent in pocket change or a double-die penny in an old jar of coins, it sparks excitement that maybe anyone could stumble upon such treasure. That is why error coins get so much attention on television, online, and in numismatic circles, because the idea that ordinary money could hold hidden fortune is thrilling. Now let's explore more possibilities. In addition to the wide AM, there are also misaligned die errors, where the obverse and reverse designs do not line up perfectly, creating a rotated die effect. These rotations can range from minor to dramatic, and a rotated die error with a wide AM reverse on a 1998 cent would create yet another layer of uniqueness. Then, there are brockage errors where a coin is struck against another coin instead of the die, leaving a mirrored impression on one side. And if such a brockage occurred with a 1998 cent on a rare planchet type, it would absolutely be a headline coin capable of shattering records. Sometimes coins are also struck through debris such as grease, cloth, or wire, creating blank or distorted areas on the surface. While these errors alone may not always fetch enormous sums, in combination with key varieties, they become part of a rare package that collectors chase. The sheer variety of possible mistakes in the minting process means that no two error coins are exactly alike. And this is why certain 1998 pennies are million-dollar coins, because their precise blend of wide AM design, doubling, off-metal striking, off-center alignment, pristine condition, and historical significance combine into a masterpiece of minting anomaly. So as you can see, the story of the 1998 cent is far more than just a small coin with a face value of 1 cent. It is about how accidents at the mint, human error, mechanical slips, transitional designs, and collector demand intersect to create incredible value. Next, 1972 South 1 Center USA coin. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where tiny pieces of copper and zinc that we often overlook in our daily lives can sometimes hold values that are beyond imagination. And today we are going to explore one of the most incredible stories in American numismatic history, the 1972 South 1 Center coin, a coin that has stunned collectors, experts, and even the general public with its jaw-dropping value of $7 million thanks to its incredible set of errors, varieties, and minting mistakes that turned what would normally be just another penny into one of the most desirable and valuable treasures in the hobby. And in this journey, we will unfold the details of how a simple San Francisco minted cent from 1972 could carry such immense worth, what types of mistakes could push its value into the millions, why collectors fight so fiercely to acquire such pieces, and how possibilities of misstruck coins, double dies, planchet flaws, die breaks, and other anomalies combine to create a one-of-a-kind rarity. So sit back and imagine being handed a small copper cent from your pocket change only to discover that it might be worth more than a luxurious mansion. And that is exactly the kind of wonder we are diving into today, as we unravel the mystery of the 1972 cent worth $7 million. And to start understanding this incredible coin, we must first recall that the early 1970s were an era of significant coinage production changes. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of cents annually, and at the San Francisco Mint where proof coins were struck with exceptional care, a surprising number of varieties and errors still managed to slip through despite strict quality control. And one of the most famous categories of valuable errors from this era are double die obverse, where the design elements, such as the date, motto, or Liberty inscription, are clearly doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process. And while the Philadelphia Mint is famous for the 1972 double die cent, The San Francisco Mint also produced its own remarkable varieties that collectors cherish, and among them, one specific example has captured the imagination of the hobby by being tied to a record-setting price of $7 million. And when we look at what makes this coin so special, it is not just a single error, but rather a combination of factors that align to make it both unique and historically important. For instance, imagine a 1972 South Proof Center struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a silver or nickel planchet intended for another denomination, combined with a major double die obverse where the words "In God We Trust" appear with clear, strong doubling visible to the naked eye. Then add to this a dramatic off-center strike where a portion of the design is missing, leaving the coin both mysterious and visually stunning. And perhaps this same coin also exhibits a die break or cut, a raised blob of metal caused by a piece of the die breaking away, which makes the coin further unique because no two cuts are exactly alike. And suddenly you have a coin with multiple dramatic mistakes rolled into one, making it a once-in-a-lifetime piece. And it is the stacking of these errors together that propels this 1972 cent into the multi-million-dollar category, and collectors understand that rarity alone is not always enough. It is the combination of rarity, demand, historical context, and eye appeal that makes a coin truly valuable. And the 1972 cent with these spectacular features embodies all of these qualities. And when such a coin comes up for auction, the bidding wars are fierce, with top collectors, museums, and investors vying to own the piece, pushing its price into the realm of $7 million, and the possibilities for what types of errors this coin could display are nearly endless. For example, it might show broad strikes where the coin is struck without the collar and spreads outward, or clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a mistake during the blanking process, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once in misaligned positions, creating a dramatic layered appearance, and even struck through errors where a piece of debris such as cloth, wire, or grease became lodged between the die and the planchet, leaving behind an impression of the foreign material on the coin's surface. And if the coin in question carried any combination of these features, especially on a proof coin that was supposed to be struck with perfection, the shock value and desirability multiplies. And part of the fascination with the 1972 cent lies in the fact that the San Francisco Mint was known for proof coinage, which meant collectors ordered these directly from the mint in pristine sets. So when a dramatic error emerges from this process, it becomes immediately collectible because quality control should have caught it, meaning very few, if any, exist, and therefore, the odds of finding such a coin in circulation are astronomically low. Yet, history has shown that even proof errors sometimes slip into the hands of collectors, and if someone preserves such a coin unknowingly for decades, only to later realize its importance, the resulting discovery can shock the entire coin collecting community. And this has been the story time, and again, where everyday individuals find themselves holding what could be considered the holy grail of sense, and thinking deeper about the potential varieties of the 1972 cent. We must also mention that coins struck that year sometimes exhibited repunched mint marks, where the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, resulting in overlapping impressions, and when paired with other dramatic errors, like doubling or striking anomalies, such coins take on legendary status. And collectors who specialize in mint mark varieties know that repunched mint marks from San Francisco in the early 1970s are among the most desirable subcategories of the Lincoln cent series, and so a coin like the $7,001,972 could easily feature such characteristics, making it even more special. And when we combine all these elements, the narrative becomes clear. This coin is not merely valuable because it is old, nor simply because it is rare, but because it embodies the perfect storm of minting mistakes, preservation, and collector demand. And when the hammer falls at a major auction and a $7 million price tag is recorded, the news spreads across the hobby like wildfire, inspiring new generations of collectors to carefully examine their own coins for hidden treasures. And the excitement of this discovery leads to stories in newspapers, features on television, and viral discussions online, all of which further fuel the desirability and mythical status of the coin. And to think that such a small piece of copper minted in 1972 at the San Francisco Mint could now rival the price of high-end art, luxury cars, or prime real estate is a testament to the passion and dedication of the coin-collecting world, and it highlights the fact that history, error, and rarity can transform the most ordinary objects into priceless treasures. And as we continue exploring the story of the 1972 cent, it becomes clear that each tiny detail matters, whether it is the thickness of the rim, the sharpness of the strike, the clarity of the doubling, or the presence of unusual metal composition, and any deviation from the expected standard can elevate the coin's interest and value. And experts spend countless hours studying these details under microscopes, photographing them, and cataloging them in numismatic references so that future generations can recognize and appreciate these rarities. And the tale of the $7,001,972 cent will forever remain one of the most captivating stories of how mistakes at the mint can result in masterpieces worth fortunes. And while the odds of finding such a coin in your pocket change today may be nearly impossible, the very existence of this coin reminds us why it is always worth looking closely, because you never know when a simple penny could turn out to be the ticket to a life-changing discovery. And as collectors, we can only dream of holding such a treasure in our hands, marveling at the accident of history that created it, and wondering about the journey it took over decades before finally being recognized for what it truly is. A $7 million marvel born from error, rarity, and the unrelenting fascination of the human desire to collect and preserve history in its smallest forms. And this is why the 1972 South One Center will always hold a special place in the hearts of numismatists worldwide.